welcome to the first show of the day, Numenera Nightborne with DM Many-Eyed Monster Jeff. Before we go around and say hello to all of these wonderful faces around the screen, please take a moment to look at all of the links that the bot is currently spamming at you. The first one is a link to the Streamlabs merch. This week and this week only, we are selling all of the Season 2 posters from last season. So if you want to go and get yourself a poster, I'm told they're very good quality, that the ink didn't run, that the paper was good, and all of that business. So if you want to go get one of them, please do. Also, there's social links, places you can support us, sponsor information. Massive thank you to Bird and the Storm Publishing and Mayhem Press who make this all possible. And also we have links to other things and a tweet which I didn't update. So I'll update that whilst we go around and say hello to everyone else. Jeff, why don't I hand over to you?
Hi. My name is Jeff Ellis, or you can find me on Twitter at Many-Eyed Monster, where I write RPGs and RPG supplements. I am your GM today for Nightborne, and also, I hope, all future episodes of Nightborne. Seems highly likely. Last we left off, our group was standing in the middle of a city, surrounded by the burning wreckage of their spaceship that had done a great deal of damage and harm to said city. They are not well liked at the moment, but I'm sure all that's gonna change and things are gonna be super great. Maybe. I do not have visual on the actual layout right now, so I'm just gonna call out the order. We'll go in and we'll start with V.
Hi everyone, I'm V. I'm the Crafting Muse, and today I'm playing Zamira, and I cannot wait. This is a very interesting first episode, and let's just say she's been triggered. So it'll be exciting to see how it plays out today. And yeah, you can find me over on Twitter and YouTube and all those lovely places, and I think that's it for me for now.
Cool, thank you. Let's move to Avery.
Hello! Hello! My name is Avery. I go by Mapper Online. I'm an artist and cosplayer. I do stuff. I draw stuff. I have a Kickstarter going for like another 2 days for some sweet pins. I am going to be playing our dear sweet robot boy Dell, D377. And they are good and pure, and they don't deserve all the hate that they're getting from this world.
Yeah, that's
Why
fair.
does everyone hate them?
Maybe they don't. I don't know. We're going to find out. We haven't met everyone on the planet. But probably not. It's probably going to be bad. And next we have Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela. I write stuff and give a lot of commentary on various issues and essays and such. I recently did a collaboration video with a Seattle poet. Feel free to check it out on my Twitter, Phoenix24FM. But I am going to be playing Beatrice Arzabe, our lovely Dryad Wraith, who is currently going through a lot of feelings and a lot of just a lot. Right, I'm right with D377, and this is a lot, and it's probably going to continue to be a lot. Yay!
It's going to be so good. You guys are going to have so much fun. This is why we get friends, right? To torment the things that they create. Next we have Alice.
Oh, hi, I'm Alice. I'm also White Rabbit Pick on Twitter. I do photography stuff when I'm not DMing or playing in games on the Scrat Academy. I am playing Jaren. He is Party Dad, and he's so done. So I don't think there needs to be much about that, but he's just happy everyone's currently still alive, and he is mildly annoyed, and that is where I'll leave it.
We're very excited to get up a Jaren mood bar and see how things go. Just kind of keep track of where he's at and when eventually he is officially done. And last but certainly not least, we have Scrat. Take it away.
Oh, hi! I'm a Sparks. Sparks is a insane little being who likes to prove NPCs wrong. Like, we don't need to spend a couple of episodes walking through the desert to get to this place. I'm so sorry, Jeff.
No one gets roleplay episodes straight into the action.
This thing's broken. No, it's not. I fixed it.
Let me just fix that. It's all right. You all have powers to do that, and that's what makes it a fun role-playing game. All right, without further ado... What was that?
This is the no bonding zone. No friends allowed.
No friends allowed. No friends here. Cool. Then without further ado, we are going to jump into the episode. You're watching episode 2 of Nightborne, The Fire's Sovereign. Each is newer now that they're old, but never truer and always cold. In the fires of the first, they become fires and worse. Reborn souls burn in newborn shells, chilling the fire, changing themselves. That was Davia's Progeny by Zetamaya. We begin today on the 9th world, our world. Only it isn't our world. Our world passed away billions of years ago. In our world, there is no city of Ospar, and there is no young girl sitting in her uncle's oddities shop while customers mill about. Zamira's uncle, Targir, is in his later years with a patient smile and deltas of smile lines running away from the corners of his eyes. He gently ushers customers out of the shop before closing and locking the door. Targir sort of, fidgets with the lock and then eventually gets it. He pulls down the blind. What is Zamira doing right now?
She's probably sort of trying to make herself useful and maybe sorting through like newer oddities that have come into the shop. Sort of, this is clearly junk. This might actually have some potential for him, and maybe even cleaning a few things.
Nice. He kind of comes to the various piles that you have, as well as all of the different cleaning. He looks at it and says, "You're doing a great job, Zamira. Thank you."
Thank you, Uncle.
Do you like this work? Do you like doing this?
It's fun to look through the different things and see what's still useful.
Yes. Part of what I love about this work. You see so many new and different things, and all of it beautiful. And what's an interesting oddity that Zamira might have found today?
It almost looks like a clockwork owl.
Mm.
And she's discovered that if you sort of run your hand along the back of it, like from the back of the head to the bottom of the tail, the eyes will light up this blue light and the wings will sort of extend out and then pull back in. And that's all she's discovered so far, but she kind of likes the more natural look that it has to it than some of the others.
Targir reaches out and he picks it up sort of by the foot, as it's like a more or less solid piece, and he looks over it and he says, "Will you show me how it works?"
Yes, it's very easy. You put your hand here and then you bring it down to its tail and then look, it does the wings come out.
Lovely. I'll put it on the counter. And he takes it and he sets it on the counter, sort of like in a place of, more or less a place of honor, a place where, everyone's going to see it as they come in. And he runs one finger down it and it lights up and its wings extend. And he says, "Today's been a good day. It's the first good day we've had in a long time, I think."
Did you have lots of people buying things?
He smiles. "No, but that is the way. Oddities, I don't know. It's not a busy business, but it is an interesting one." And he he's gone around the counter now and is sort of doing his own sorting of various things. You see him kind of pull some things out, pull other things out, and he picks up a little green rock and he looks at it and says, "Anything?" And he kind of taps at it. And he sets it down on a tiny, on the counter, there's like a little, just shelving. And he sets it down on a shelf there. And then he says, Their aunt is likely upstairs making some lunch for us. I suppose we have... And he stops, and he thinks about it. You know what? No more work today. Let's go outside.
You can close your store like that?
There's no one here. Not many more people expected to come in anyway.
Do you need a sign? I can make you sign.
That sounds excellent, my dear. If you would make me a sign, I will go up, I will collect some lunch for us, and we'll all go eat outside. How about that?
Okay, I'll make the sign, and you bring the food down and close the store.
So Tarjir heads upstairs. What materials do you use to make this sign? There's all kinds of... I mean, there's really anything you can dream up here.
She'll probably find like just almost like a wonky shaped piece of scrap paper.
Mhm.
It's not squared or perfectly rectangular or anything like that. It's just sort of like an amoeba shape almost. And she'll probably just grab the nearest writing thing, so probably a pen off the top of the countertop, and she'll just like furiously start like scribbling it in and trying to make sure the letters are very dark and prominent. And you'll see she's sort of favoring her right hand a little bit because there's still a bandage wrapped around it. But she's taking her job quite seriously, and her brows are furrowed together, and you can kind of see her tongue kind of peeking out the one side as she's like trying to recall how to write apologies, because she's trying to write apologies closed today on the sign. And she did a pretty good job, except the S is a Z, so it's apologies instead.
Perfect. So, oh, I wrote this down. Where did I write it down at, though? There it is. So Tarjir and your aunt Io come downstairs, and they have like a little basket with them, and they see the sign that you've made. This is excellent. This is, and he looks over it, and he kind of you see his fingers sort of pause at the Z, but then it just keeps going, and he just, perfect. We'll put it up in the window, and we can all just go be a family for a minute. Would you like that?
I'm your family?
Always.
Yes, that sounds fun.
And you leave, hand in hand, your uncle's oddity shop. And the door closes. And he puts the piece of amoeba-shaped parchment up in the window. And as we pull away from the door of this shop, we hear the slow sound of a roaring fire pull in. And as we zoom out, the shop, not surrounded, not so much in the sense that it is in a world that is burning, but rather that it is being seen through a lens, and that lens is traced by fire. We pull through it until we don't see the lens anymore, until all we see is fire. And we pull out of the fire, and we are on Davia's perch, where the city is burning, where you are all standing there with Callispa and Arustaban. Your ship has crashed into Davia's perch. It destroyed the monolith, which Sparks repowered, which now shines a red light at the top of it. There is wreckage everywhere, bits of the Nightcraft sort of scattered all about. There are people everywhere trying to put out fires, trying to clear structures, trying to salvage what they can, helping each other, doing everything in their power to resolve this. And standing in this chaos, the five of you stand next to Callispa, who is knelt, head bowed, before the figure of Sovereign. A strange woman, a powerful woman, tall, with a creature that rises up out of her bare stomach, wraps around under her and then up over, and ends in a head that looks sort of like a manta ray if you took the part where the colors of the manta ray on the bottom and the top meet and put a maw there. And it looks around. No eyes, just probing, looking, holding itself up on its own weight, with Sovereign's hand there, gently scratching at what may be a chin. And Sovereign says, "These pilgrims?" And she looks at all of you. She scans from Sparks to Jaren, Beatrice to Zamira to Dell. Every look ecstatic. And she smiles and she says, "You are everything I've been waiting for."
Spark's face says nope.
What have you been waiting for?
She walks up to Jaren. And in the same...
He stands upright a little bit more, even though he's
Yeah.
very short.
I think if she gets too close, Dell's sword just parts the, like, is in between them.
It's just like,
Just-
whoa.
yeah.
She stops, and her other hand, her free hand, rests on Callispa's head, the same way that it sort of scritches at the creature rising out of her. And she looks at you, Jaren, over Dell's blade, unfazed by it, looking you in the eyes, and she says, "You are the ones on the ship. The ones from the night. Is that correct?"
That is correct.
Yep.
She smiles, wider, almost too wide. And she says, "You will join me in the Forgotten Hall, and we will talk of the Nightcraft."
The name The Forgotten Hall doesn't really inspire me to, like, go to this place, you know?
She looks at Sparks. She says, "Maybe you can help us remember what it is the hall was originally tended for."
Maybe.
What do you want to talk about?
What'd you say, Jaren?
Is it- What is it exactly you want to talk about that you can't talk about here?
She looks around at all the fire and the chaos and the wreckage. It's awfully loud.
I'm a good listener.
She kind of leans in over Dell's blade.
The blade shinks, so the blade end is towards her throat. But there's no movement of the blade towards her, it just turns.
Mhm.
And again, Jaren doesn't move. I think he reaches back, look again, acknowledging everything around him to see where Zamira is. But otherwise, he won't move.
Where's Zamira at the moment?
She's definitely sort of statue still, eyes wide, barely even registering what's happening beyond the smell of the smoke and the sight of the fire and the sounds of people trying to extinguish it right now.
Darren, creature, it rears its head back like a snake about to strike as soon as the blade touches Sovereign's throat. But that's all. It stays there, and Sovereign leaves the blade on the skin of her neck. And she says, I want to know how you traveled here. I want to know how this, and her eyes kind of move around to the various wreckage of the ship, came to be. And
Then
I
it
get
is we have the same questions.
She smiles. Excellent. And we shall meet as friends.
Are there more like you? Throughout this entire time, Beatrice has been, after she saw everything. No, but it's like it is that, but it like probably Dell and Jaren would notice more than anyone else. It's much more frenetic. It's not the usual like detailed pace. It's like, imagine a kid just like scrawling diagonally and trying to write notes across a paper, like line piece of paper, but it's getting more and more angular, and like she's still trying to write while she's trying to look up at the creature, and it's just getting more sloppy, and she hasn't stopped while she's saying anything. It's just like, will there be more like you? More to learn about.
She steps back, and the creature kind of relaxes into her hand once more. And she looks at Beatrice and she says, there are no more like me, but there is always more to learn. Callispa. And she kind of puts a finger under her chin and just raises her as Callispa rises to her feet. And Callispa says, Sovereign, bring them to the hall. Bring them to me.
Time out! Time out! Just 2 seconds! Time out! Group huddle! Group huddle! Can we have 2 seconds, please?
And Sovereign says, you have your time. I can wait. And
Merci beaucoup. Right, come on.
oh my Christ.
Oh my god.
So before we transition into your group huddle, Sovereign, actually, you see almost not in like a grotesque way, more like a magical kind, even though it's not magic, but just kind of like a magical way that all of the colors of Sovereign begin to change to match the coloring of this creature that rises out of her. And it lowers and it slithers its head down to the ground and starts to pull away from her. And as it pulls away, her body pulls away with it, becoming just a tail, and it slithers away. And Callispa just, you see her take a breath for possibly the first time ever. And as she's collecting herself, you have plenty of time to meet amongst yourselves.
Jaren watches it leave. He's not taking
Did it for Del.
What's going on? Are we supposed to be here? Do we want to be here? This person seems really creepy.
Don't know where we are. And I don't know if we have a choice in the matter.
There's always a choice. Just blow everything up.
Yes, but it's more the repercussions I'm thinking of. You can always blow something up. It's what we're left with afterwards.
Lots of pieces.
Mm-hmm. And with those lots of pieces, how are we going to get home?
Build a ship or something, I don't know. Things work out! Things just work out! Don't you notice? Things just work out all the time.
Right, okay. Beatrice, have you seen, read anything about something like this before?
I saw many creatures while I was back home, and I don't know if I've heard of anything like this. I don't think the ship has normally done this throughout all of our travels, and but it's fascinating. All of the things about it are all of this place. It's so new, and I'm sure it can't be all terrible, right? And she hasn't stopped writing throughout this entire time. She's still she's basically nearing the point where, like, if there were like a pencil and like a very thin piece of paper, she's almost like poking through like the notebook of parchment, like it's just full of parchment. She's just writing notes in it, and it's just getting more frenetic, and it's getting her points where she's not even writing, it's just like stabbing down into the paper, and she's just she's half focused on you and half focused on the paper.
I think Beatrice feels a hand just on their shoulder as Dell's free hands just on there, just as maybe a gesture of comfort. It's hard to tell with Dell. It's just like maybe like a knee-jerk response to this like visible stress.
It's thank you, Dell. It's going to be fine. I think Sparks is right. Things will work out. We should probably we should not insult them anymore, and we should keep going. We need more information. That's how we solve everything. We just get more information, and then things will work out fine.
What
right?
makes you think these people are going to give us information? They didn't even know how to fix their teleporter thing.
Dell just looks up at the ship that has crashed into it. I think it was a recent development.
To that point, they see, you do see sort of, you see different people. They're not all dressed in the same sort of Moraviri style that you've seen from the hunters. There are various different kinds. Few of them, though, are as colorful as the Moraviri. Callispa is in vibrant colors with different patterns sort of cross-sectioning in various places. Different pieces of her clothing all have, these different colorful patterns all mashed together in this sort of beautiful, chaotic look. But you see these different people coming together. No sense of uniform amongst them. There are similar styles of clothing, but like no one just like 5 dudes in the same blue shirt, and they're coming together, and you see different people. Some throw out these orbs that fly through the air, sort of clacking together, and then spinning and pulling the fire into the center of where they spin, and the fire just sort of disappears. And then other teams come in and move things. They're able to lift up rubble that is much larger than them and put it aside. And you see that this place is very, very quickly moving to resolve this crisis.
Oh, I want to touch it. But look, it went. Okay, look, I'll go along with your plan, Beatrice. But we should have like an unsafe word. Like a word that means blow everything up. But not like boom or something. That happens too often. Like, I don't know, shenanigans.
Jaren shrugs, or at least a distraction. I mean, it's not a bad idea.
Is Samira okay? Where's Samira? She's genuinely asking because she's worried about just making sure everyone's together, but she also has probably not been paying full attention to where everyone's at, so she's just like, she needs something to focus the worry and to calm down the writing because it's her stress relief at this point.
Where is Zamira?
She's definitely sort of standing where they landed when they came through the monolith, and her eyes just sort of taking in what's happening with the cleanup. And it's almost like for each flame that's absorbed and taken care of, you see color coming back to her face, and she's not holding her breath as much. It's almost like she's sort of mentally and physically coming around from what's been surrounding her, but she's still sort of caught up in her mind right now.
As you, Zamira, are watching all of this, in your hands, Yanshi is just comfortably cold. Just this kind of soothing, cool temperature, and just giving off just a soft.
Jaren, seeing this, will probably slowly, no like fast movements, will walk over to Zamira and just crouch. And at very first, very hesitantly, hover a hand over her shoulder and then place it there. Zamira, we need to move.
That'll kind of like snap her out of it. And, yes, of course we can. We'll go with them.
We're just going to talk.
Callispa turns to you now. She's been sort of watching the fires be put out in kind of a daze. Since she saw Sovereign, since she came through, she has been just, even in the short time that you've known her, a little different, a little quieter, not as direct. And she's just watching the fires. Her eyes lingered on where the creature sort of slithered away to for a while. And then she begins to compose herself, and she turns to Jaren. You are collected? You are ready now?
And he sort of turns away from her, looks back down at Zamira and then across at the others. Are we?
Shenanigans.
Why is he talking about shenanigans?
Don't say the word.
What is it?
That's-
What is shenanigans?
It's when something
It means no worries!
Oh,
that
excellent. Well, and she looks back towards where the thing went, and she says, and she looks at Beatrice for a moment. And then she looks back at Jaren, and she says, we are going to the Moraviri home first. We will speak with my masters to resolve, and she looks down at Rustaban, still standing quietly next to Beatrice. It hasn't really done anything. It sort of just trots along when you move. And she says, to resolve that, and she looks around. Much of the fire's been put out now, and parts of rubble are being sort of moved aside. You see different medical operations coming in and treating people and stuff like that. We will tell them what happened here. But we must be wary. Jaren the Traveler.
and Jaren he stands and he holds a hand out for Zamira and doesn't take his eyes away. This sovereign, who is it? What is their standing?
Sovereign is everything that is not Moraviri.
You like speaking in riddles. What is it?
You want to know hard facts about Sovereign.
I want to know social standing.
Sovereign is its namesake. We answer to it. We do not go against it.
Are you
And
saying
she-
that? Are you saying the sovereign is not from here either?
Sovereign. It is hard to explain. I am sorry, Jaren the Traveler, Zamira. This is not... I do not intend to deceive you. I do not know the answers to the questions that you're asking. But we will travel now to the Moraviri home where people can answer your questions. And if you see more, and her eyes kind of scan the area, like that creature, we call them the Spear Cross. They are the Sovereign's eyes. You let me know if you see more of those creatures.
Jaren just nods. Then lead the way.
And she does.
If no one's been watching Sparks, he has strayed over towards one of them fire things.
Yeah, what's he doing?
He's touching it. If anyone's close by, he'll be like, "What is it? Buy one get 5 outfits free or something?" And like touch the fire thing.
There's a young man currently using one of these fire eaters, and it's pulled in the fire and sort of it's just eaten it as Sparks comes up and just pokes it. And he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! What are you?" And then he looks at Sparks and he's like, "What's? There's a lot going on there. Do you just don't touch that, all right? Because it's not.
Why?
You don't know about these? That's interesting. I thought everybody knew about fire eaters. Well, if you aren't careful, it sort of does. I like to call it a belch, because it just kind of like, and then, you know, one of those.
So, Sparks is used to melding with equipment, right? Becoming part of it, figuring out how it works. He's gonna grab hold of this fire eater and try and do that.
Roll me a level 4 intellect task. Essentially the same kind of roll you would do to identify a
Can
new
Del be
sector.
on their way to stop Sparks and or pull this poor guy out of the way?
Yes, roll me a level 4 speed task. Del.
Okay,
I'm gonna
I
put
have.
1 level of effort in.
Yeah, go for it.
Would defense task go for it, or is it just getting there in time?
Jesus. No, it's not. It rolls for this character. It's not a.
Motherfucker.
Actually, yes. Go ahead and apply defense task to it.
Okay. So what was the difficulty?
4.
Oh, awesome.
What is Scrat's luck in all of this? I don't understand.
I don't know. Perfect. So, Scrat, you have a major effect for your 20. Is there anything in particular related to kind of how your character operates that you want that effect to be?
I would love to know how to best utilize this thing as a weapon.
Yeah. As a weapon? Interesting.
I'm an assassin, right? Come on, I need
Yeah,
to
no,
know.
that makes sense. You're kind of jiggling it around and everything, and the guy is just kind of like backing up a bit. He's like looking around for someone who's like your adult. And he's like, where did this person come from? And he turns and he sees Del approaching. And he kind of steps back a bit, sort of taking in Del and how like large he is. He's like, do you know who this guy is?
He is with me. I just kind of watch him, and the moment I see a spark, I'm just numbing this poor guy out of the way. Like flash, like in a flash, just he's in his arms and they're out.
Sparks, you know that you can essentially use this as a fire detonation cipher.
Why
So
would you give this to him?
you can. He went and found it.
Remember that monolith trick?
Yeah, right. So this you can add that to your inventory, Scrat. I will find stats for it in a second here.
Just steal it in front of this guy.
It's essentially a fire grenade.
Mine now.
And as Sparks is kind of figuring out, as you're like messing with it, you can see now essentially the ring opened, pulled in the fire, and then kind of closed, and is now just like all of them collected together like orb. And you're holding them, moving around. You can see the fire sort of moving in them. And the more you shake it, the like closer it gets to the edge of the exterior. And I imagine like, you want to get it right there, but then don't, because that's Sparks. And yeah, you're just shaking it around like a snow globe. And this guy has literally already stepped behind Dell, and he's like, you know what? And he's just watching Sparks go. He's like, hey man, you just keep it. That's great. We already got I'm going to go find somebody, and and he just like runs off towards like a group of people.
Bill just watches him go. Looks at Sparks like,
Nice guy!
Quite. Are you done?
I think so.
Do we actually want him holding on to that, though, considering what it can do and what he is now doing with it?
Jaren is already moving. You bitches away, like off in the other direction.
Callispa actually hangs back and sort of just walks with Sparks and Dell. And she's looking at Sparks and she says, "That is very dangerous."
Don't tell him that. Like Jared's just sort of calling back over his shoulder. Yeah.
Samira's like pinching the bridge of her nose.
I don't know. It's quite dangerous.
She smiles.
And it was dirty.
Well, you do need to watch out for that. It's going to be interesting bringing you into the home. And she begins walking with you all. And you walk through Davia's Perch. It's a city of sort of labyrinthine streets, turns, rises, falls. You're moving through this sort of just matte white city, all this same strange material. If you look at where the ground meets the walls, it's almost as if the buildings literally rise up out of the ground. It's that same material. And all throughout, there is a very, very, very gentle glow. There are not a lot of heavy shadows here. It's as if the city lights itself, and that light is maintained at this exact same level all the way throughout. There are people going about their day. You pass through some markets with various bits of food. You might even recognize some Mujitavar, like legs on a roast spit kind of a deal, and like the bits and pieces of the big blue reptiles that you saw earlier. And you pass again. Callispa keeping an eye out always, usually above, watching the rooftops. If you all would like to roll a level... Where did I write it? Oh, yeah. If you all want to roll a level 3 int task for me, that would be great. Anything that applies to sight can ease this, if you have any skills for that.
I'm blind. I'm
What
blind.
level, sorry?
Level 3.
Level 3.
Dell is busy watching Sparks.
Please do.
Perfect. So Dell and Sparks watch together. Sparks is just so full of energy. He's still just looking around, sort of just because he's Sparks, not necessarily like...
Dell's tracing Sparks' movement.
Yeah.
It's like,
And as you all walk, each of you, throughout this journey, occasionally spot these sort of snake-like manta ray head things, some curled around a small spire at the top of a building, others coiled up on the street, like behind things. And as you pass, they all sort of turn and look at you. While you're walking, you see maybe a total of 3 or 4. Callispa clocks them. And you notice that each time she sees one, her path veers a little bit. And she takes a new route. Until you come to a large building, the same white material. No door. It sort of just opens into the interior. And she steps into it and takes out a small piece of chalk. But it is bright, bright pink. And she looks back at all of you and she says, "Okay, you are about to enter the Moraviri home, so behave yourselves." And she draws a large circle, and you see the white push in, and in the same way that bubblegum will start in that solid mat, and then as you blow air into it, it becomes thinner and thus becomes translucent. The wall sort of pushes back until it's translucent, and then it's gone, and it opens up into kind of a tunnel. And this tunnel, the walls all around it, the material, the floor, are in contrast to the stark white material that you've seen throughout all of Davia's Perch. It looks more like a sort of melted jawbreaker, layers of vibrant colors, sort of just one after the other. It could be described as stripes, but they're not. There's no pattern here. It's just different colors, none of them repeating. And Callispa turns and sort of gestures inside. It is, however, similarly lit in the way that Davia's Perch has been. There's almost no shadows in it, and you can see quite a ways down the tunnel until it turns. And Callispa says, "When you enter the home, nothing can hurt you. We cannot hurt you. The home is safe, and I welcome you."
Jaren nods more sort of in thanks than anything else, in an acknowledgement. Glances his eyes over to Dell, just almost like touching point rather than anything else, but will take the step forward and head down the tunnel.
Do all of you follow?
Well, Zamira was holding his hand, so yeah, she's going
He
with.
won't drag you. He won't drag you.
No,
You have
she's,
any resistance
she's
then.
definitely, keeping in stride with Jaren. No, definitely not that.
Dell stands next to Callispa and watches as everyone else goes through and then takes up the rear. It's like a back watch.
Sparks will stay very close to Dell, and is now looking at the energy between his joints.
Mild concern. I'm afraid suddenly. Dell just kind of stares at Sparks staring at them, but then you cannot tell what expression they have.
Beatrice
I'm
is
gonna
probably
go
at the
lie
back of the
down.
group, and the slight blackish sort of aura and vapor that comes off of her. Instead of the sort of pinkish hue it turned around the fire, and instead of the normal like inky shadowy color it is, now it's just sort of a dulled kind of blue. And she's still writing. It's less frenetic now, but the movements seem very slow and very intentional, and like there's probably like she's holding back tears at some point, but she's like trying to like put her face down so no one can see it.
Yeah, I think if Beatrice is behind the group, she'll again feel like that hand on her shoulder, and Dell guides her between him and Jaren, and just kind of leans down and is like, "Stay between us. We will keep you safe."
There shouldn't be any danger. She's promised us no danger, and it seems as though there's quite a lot in here of interest. It should be fine. Things will be good in here. People have made promises. I'm sure they will keep them. It will be fine. Thank you, Del.
A small nod from Dell as they straighten back up and walk with the group.
So as you proceed through this hall, it begins to break up into rooms, and you are in a complex. The walls are that same layered, vibrant colors all throughout, but you see distinction now on the floors and ceilings. There's structures, not structures, but like different rooms and walls and such. And for all intents and purposes, it is a large, very large kind of boarding house. There are people living in close proximity to each other. They don't seem cramped, though. They seem very comfortable. And you are in a community of people that you assume are Moraviri. They dress very similarly to Callispa and Vorsh. You notice that it's sometimes hard to keep track of people because their clothes are that same vibrant mix of colors that all of the walls are. And you think watching it that it has to be intentional. As they move, people sort of disappear into these colors a bit and pop back in. The only thing that isn't vibrantly colored in this way would be their skin. So you see hands and faces every now and then, but it's still sort of all getting lost in these colors. You're able to follow Callispa easily enough because she makes sure to be seen and visible to you. And as she enters, many people come to her and sort of slow her path, and she stops and she whispers things to them. You hear Timka's name said quite a bit, as well as another name. Where did I write it down? What was it? Aluwani. And getting bits and pieces, you're able to put together that she's sort of offering condolences, accepting condolences, passing on information about the loss of Timka to the Mujidavar, and Aluwani, you've assumed, was the crying hunter who first entered the monolith when it was still broken. And there are old people here, young people here, children, everyone running around. And in the midst of all of this, you get this feeling that there are, for this much chaos to operate on this level without anyone running into each other, without anyone sort of, getting on people's nerves, you begin to realize that there is a very established order to all of this, actually, sort of just cultural norms that are part of how this group of people have been raised in this space. They all know sort of, it's like this may only be applicable to me. It's like going to a country bar and everyone starts line dancing and you're like, why do you all know this? Why do you all know how to do this? I don't understand. Like, just like you're all sitting down and you go down and you all know the same dance. What?
In Australia, we have the nut bush. The same thing.
Nice.
We have a thing.
So there's this, people know exactly how much space to give each other, and they seem to speak with each other for very specific amounts of time and then respectfully just sort of step back and go about their day. And Callispa leads you through. You're watching, and there are all manners of technology being used in this place that is seemingly magical. I mean, the space itself, the way it lights itself, light is just where you need it, and it's as much light as you need. There are people cooking, but you see no fire anywhere. Smoke rises off of things and seems to dissipate much sooner than it should, though the thing that it's coming off of is still cooking correctly. When people come up to Callispa and whisper to her, there's like a strangeness to the sound. Beatrice or anyone, if you want to roll a level 4 int task, I can tell you a little bit more. Whoa. Nice.
Sorry.
No worries.
Int, was that?
Yeah, level 4 int. Perfect. Awesome.
Int for days!
Del, is there anything in specific related to your character and sort of analyzing or viewing tech or strange things like this that you want to use for that minor effect?
I might look around, and considering what they said last, like when we first met, how they referred to Dell as using their technology, I want to see if there is anything that resembles what powers me here.
That's a great point. So you
oh no.
So in reference to the sound, and I will totally give you that minor effect in a second, but in reference to the sound of how people are speaking, you are able to get this impression that some sort of dampening effect and amplifying effect is being used so that you really only hear so much sound as you can handle. Whispers very close to you are slightly audible, but the more you think about it, this place, as close in as it is and as many people as there are, should be nearly deafening, and you should not be able to hear a whisper, especially not to someone other than yourself. But you are. The sound levels are sort of kept appropriate to each of you, as would be comfortable. Del, you are, as you're all walking and following Callispa, you notice, and all of you will notice this, but we'll get to the kind of minor effect in a second. Roostabon, for the first time, kind of just trots away from Beatrice. Ding, 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 ding. And just goes and curls up. And on this, it curls up next to this kind of counter, and there's a person there cooking, and they look over, and on their shoulder, similar to Rustaban, is a robotic cat. And that cat has a big orb for a head. And that glowy orb, as well as Rustaban's, it's the same sort of color, and the obviously not the orb itself, it's like a glass orb, but the energy inside of it, that sort of like foggy glow, it looks exactly like the energy that runs through you. It has that same kind of what's the word? Static to it, I guess. As the beams powering your legs. And the man sort of leans forward, the cat, Taigoa, perfectly balanced on his shoulder, says, Rustaban. And he looks up, and he looks at all of you, and he looks at Callispa, and he looks confused. And then he looks very sad. And Callispa just sort of nods. He just goes back, kind of solemnly, back to preparing this food. And the cat, Taigoa, just sort of lays down. You all can continue on your way, or if you want to explore more of this area, there is an opportunity for it.
I think Dell definitely takes a moment, and just as they're walking, if anyone looks back at Dell, there's definitely a lingering stare at this energy that is very similar to them, and maybe just a little cock of the head before they look back to the party. And how's Zamira and Beatrice looking, especially?
Zamira would definitely be more back to her natural self as to how you're used to seeing her at this point, because you're not around the fire and the damage and everything anymore. She's actually, if anything, being in the colors and smelling the food cooking and seeing children and families and things like that, it's almost like brought her back around, so she seems far more at ease.
Beatrice is probably the aura is it's slowly, very, very, very faintly starting to return back to its normal kind of gray, inky black sort of coloration, but and she's her pace has been going back to just her normal, like just writing notes the way that anyone has been seeing it. But if she notices at all that like you stop Dell, she'll probably do the same kind of thing that you've been doing for her, and she'll stop and just like try and just like rest her side against you, just to like nothing too like close or like a hug or anything, because she doesn't quite know how you feel like about affection of any kind, regardless if we've had those conversations or not. But she just tries to be like as very plainly comforting in return as you've been to her.
Yeah. I think Dell doesn't look distressed exactly, but if you follow their gaze, you can definitely see that they're staring at this cat Taigoa, and just kind of maybe if you're able to, like, if seeing as Beatrice is pretty good with Numenera, they might notice a similarity. That's a Jeff question, I guess.
Yeah, you can roll. Again, it would probably just be another like Numenera identify roll, so you can do a level 4 int.
Would understanding Numenera drop the difficulty for that?
Sure.
Okay.
So you're looking at it, and what you know about the way Numenera work and the strange different sort of many versions of how things are powered on the Ninth World. There's certainly no one way. Nothing about what's around you, this place, the way it operates in terms of technology, seems to share a similar, for lack of a better word, operating system, energy source, to Dell or to the Taigoa. They seem very unique amongst this place, and even as you look around, you see one more sort of just dog Taigoa sort of moving through the crowd. And they are not colorful. They are just steel, metal, with the big glowing orbs at the head. But you're not sure what operates them, what powers them. In fact, the only similarities that you can see are the sort of like how the energy looks inside of the orb, and the fact that this is the only bit of technology that has that kind of inorganic steel look that Dell also shares.
Kind of look back to Beatrice, like, we should keep moving.
Would you like me to hold your hand, Del?
There's a long, long pause. And then, again, the same emotionless tone, it's just like, if it would help. And then just holds Beatrice's hand. I think Dell thinks they're helping Beatrice and not the other
I
way
think
around.
Beatrice probably thinks she's trying to help Del. I think it's a mutual motivation
sure,
of trying to
yeah.
help the other person.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he'll take your hand.
As you all follow through this area, you move through kind of other large openings like this, traveling through these tunnels. You're starting to get Zamira, especially, you would notice this, having kind of like kept an eye on different like cultures and how different people like operate. You're getting a sense that these are all pods connected by different tunnels. You come to more of these like small kind of communal pods, essentially. Same thing, you see people with this sort of similar cultural understanding of how to go about navigating the space and everything. And there are offshoots, small rooms that seem to either go into longer hallways or what could be essentially like housing spaces. And Callispa leads you all through. Over your head, a strange kind of metallic bird with like a small bird, not like some huge like eagle, but with an orb for a head, just sort of flies by. And you finally come to a large door, and Callispa knocks gently, and the door opens, and standing on the other side, where did I write this? Is a tall, middle-aged, dark-skinned woman with green box braids and green lipstick. And there are colorful lines, that same sort of that you see throughout the this sort of Moraviri home. Colorful lines that run through her skin. Not like veins, it doesn't look unsettling, but just almost chaotic. There doesn't seem to be any particular pattern or choice in colors, just that they're vibrant. And the door opens, and this woman sees Callispa and says, "Oh, good. And she pulls her into a big hug. And Callispa is just... and then she lets go. And she sort of just pulls Callispa into the room and looks at the rest of you, and she says, come on, come in.
Zamira would look up at Jaren.
Sort of like a side glance, and just... he really tries to give a smile. He's not very good at them, but he does sort of like a little bit of a smile where you can see his scar wrinkle up, and he just sort of tries to look comforting and he can't, and he's trying to just sort of nod and say it's okay, and he walks in. He sort of loosens the grip on her. He doesn't let go, but so that if she wants to stay back, she can. And he steps in.
She'll look over her shoulder to the others. Looks like we're going to be going inside, if you're ready.
Del just nods and looks ready to take up the rear as they have. They'll let go of Beatrice's hand and just kind of look down and nod. And they'll stay by the door until everyone's inside. And
Beatrice?
She's kind of before coming in, she's probably the last one to go in. She just looks at some of the other Taikoa that she's seen passing by, and there's like a moment where she just gets caught up in a memory, it looks like, and then she sort of just snaps out of it, writes another note down in her notebook, and then just walks in with everyone else. But she seems slightly distracted.
So as you...
Del looks at Sparks.
I was going to say
Oh
it.
yeah, what is Sparks doing?
Del, so when Del was looking at that energy thing, I think Sparks is still back there.
Oh no.
Why? Where is Sparks? Why?
I look over the heads of everybody. Do I see Sparks? Do I see this glowing green menace?
Sparks reaches up. Are you going? Are you going for the cat Taigoa that we saw?
We can see the
Or the
energy,
bird
right?
one.
Holding things together, like on Del's limbs. I know I
Um,
can't touch Del's limbs because consent, but this thing.
This
You
thing
can-
is worse as a
That's
person,
a
man.
right to Scrat.
So the
Robot rights, robot
Yeah.
rights.
so the energy you can't see how it powers it, like it all looks like organic the way it moves, but that energy is swirling inside of the orb that makes up inside of the orb that is its head.
Oh god, you're gonna blow up a dead guy. Can Del see this, like looking over everybody and just see this glowing neon green
Roll
cat-eared
me
menace?
roll me a does Sparks want to be seen? Does Sparks care? Is he trying to be stealthy?
Sparks isn't necessarily putting effort into being stealthy.
Okay.
More obsessed with this thing.
Yeah. Del, roll me a level 3 int test to see if you can see Sparks. He stands out quite a bit even in all of this chaos because you're not seeing any like stark blacks or stark whites.
Failed. Do I have a reroll?
You do. Michael Wayne
yeah.
gifted you a reroll.
I'm gonna use it for the best thing possible, which is
Hell
keeping
yeah.
Sparks out of trouble.
I'm not in trouble yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, but the yet is what upsets me.
It's not a
Excellent.
matter of if it'll happen, it's when it will.
When?
It's the inevitable. We're just waiting
It's
for
the
that shoe to go
inevitable.
kerplunk.
Yeah.
Del, you turn around, and you are able to see Del reaching up towards this cat Taigoa on this man's shoulder. And the man's kind of hard at work, and the cat has kind of like come down his shoulder, actually, like onto the counter, sort of interested in Sparks in the same way that Sparks is interested in it. What would you like to do?
I look down to the rest of the party. It's like, I will be back, and you just see Del stride with a
I have a
purpose through this
mission.
crowd, like.
You know those
Um,
lamps that you can touch and like the lightning arcs between them?
You're gonna kill kill this already dead guy.
I'm not trying to kill, just just
Yeah, just because you're not trying to doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. This is Sparks we're talking about.
match
Um,
energies maybe,
Del, you are moving through this crowd, and everyone parts around you the same way they part around anyone else here. You see people shuffling along. They're, children, sort of, they're playing, but they have a pretty clear awareness of how all of this works. You don't even bump into anyone. You just go. And as you're coming up on Sparks, Sparks is reaching for this Taigoa as it nears it. And the man's just going about his business, sort of like paying attention to the food. And you're getting closer and you're getting closer. And before you can reach him, bonk, Sparks just touches the Taigoa and nothing happens.
Can I do like a little electric stroke? Like, bzzz,
Yeah, you give it a little zippy scritch, and Sparks, out of the fog in this orb, the sort of energy fog, just comes a human face, a woman. She seems young, but old enough to have gone off and seen a bit of the world. And it just comes forward and says, "Stop it. That's enough."
Stop what?
Stop what?
I like this.
And she smiles. And the cat just sort of turns and walks back up onto the man's shoulder.
Yeah, we got.
Who's
Oh.
He's just kind of looking at you. He's like, okay. Just goes back to doing what he's doing.
I think Sparks feels a hand on their shoulder. And Dell just kind of leans down and is like, we are trying not to upset anybody.
I haven't upset anyone yet. All I've got is gifts and weird looks. So like
There's a
normal,
very-
really.
There is a very long pause, and Sparks, Adele just says, you make me feel another emotion I don't know the word for, but it makes me want to raise my voice.
Oh, partying, excitement. That'll be the one. Can I touch your elbow?
No. Del doesn't know how to say no. There's just a pause and then a nod. Which elbow do you want to touch? There is a fully robotic one and like one that is attached to a humanoid bicep.
Whichever one looks more electrical.
The top half doesn't really look electrical very much. There's like a glow from the chest, a glow from a very fairly bright glow from the stomach, even through the cloth, and then it's the legs.
What's in your stomach?
They'll just tilts their head, and they just shift the skirt, and it is just light through there, the same way that their legs are. There is no waist there. It is just light.
Can I touch that?
If you must.
Well, I must, but I want to know how you work. It's kind of the reason I hired you.
I, out of character, is laughing a lot. Del has no emotions about all of this, except for apparently excitement, according to Sparks.
Are we also witnessing this? Like, this interaction? Because
I don't
So-
feel like we would have all gone in if we'd noticed the Dell, the tallest one of us, still
Yeah.
hasn't gone in. I don't feel
Yeah,
like
Del will
we're,
let you know.
interested in it.
Del
You are
let
all
know.
gathered kind of at the doorway, including Callispa and this other woman watching this interaction. And Dell and Sparks are having this conversation. Dell's like got his like
It's up.
shirt up, showing off his energy abs. And
Flexing.
all around them, the hive of busyness has stopped.
oh no.
Oh, shit.
And
Del is-
everyone is staring at Dell.
Oh
Jared
no.
is rubbing his temple and will just turn to this woman who's welcome to him and tell her, excuse me a moment, and he's gonna walk over to
Yeah.
Bell and Sparks.
Jaren,
I don't think Del.
go on.
I don't think Dell's noticed the people staring. They're just following Sparks' requests at the moment.
Sparks, probably spotting Jaren coming across, is quickly going to put hand in.
Zamira would be looking at Beatrice. We're going to have a conversation with him about appropriate touching, aren't we?
This would have to be us doing facilitation.
Do I have to?
How does it feel? Is it like electricity? Do I feel nothing? What does it feel like?
Dell?
That's up to Dell. You can.
Oh, okay. I don't think it hurts. It's kind of like you have pins and needles in your hands now. At the moment, it's just kind of that numbness or whatnot, but you feel like once you take it out, it's going to hit that really intense pins and needles of like, For Dell, it's a very odd sensation of just like something pushing, but going through. I don't know, I guess they can feel it, but it's as if it was very numbed, I suppose. And it's almost like, I guess, pushing it like a jello, I guess, and going through that. But if you were the jello, and they're just kind of looking down at Spark and just tilts their head and asks, "Is your curiosity satisfied?"
Very! This is amazing!
Put my hand out.
Jaren,
if they hear Jaren, they turn around from the waist, so you can see the whole 180 pivot that they can do.
Jaren, as you approach these two in the middle of this, like, stunned marketplace, essentially,
Jeff, you sound like the tired parent right now.
it's so good. There are various levels of dismay on the faces of everyone around you, from like the younger people kind of like snickering at it. There's some people who are just like not looking at it. You see one old woman just openly weeping. She's just like and like someone has to like kind of like cart her away. It's an interesting scene.
Jaren walks up, looks at Sparks, looks up at Dell, and looks back at Sparks. We said we weren't going to upset anyone.
I only touched Dell, I didn't touch anyone else!
There are people weeping. Sparks.
Well, it's not my fault they've got, I don't know, delicate dispositions or whatever.
You chose one of
Is your hand still in Dell?
No, I've taken it out. I'm like trying to get rid of the pins and needles now.
You chose one of the most public places. And Jaren closes his eyes briefly. You just see him.
Jaren feels a hand on his shoulder.
Yeah. He just feels it there and he sort of.
Another hand on the bicep. There!
There's like that twinge. And Del, are you okay?
Just a nod. Like, I am functional.
Did you want him to do that?
He requested it.
Not request. Want. And you feel like Jaren's shoulders, like his hackles are up. They're sort of quite tense.
Del like looks down at you for a beat too long, and is just cocks her head like, want?
Yes. Want.
I am unfamiliar with the term.
Then we will talk about it later. Just for me, could you please go check on Beatrice and Zamira because they've been left on their own and they request assistance.
Immediately Del kind of stands to attention. It's like, very well, and strides off.
And Jaren tries to straighten up again. No touching.
What do you mean, no
People.
touching?
No people. No. And you just see him sort of... When someone doesn't understand want, don't.
But I touched things back there and they gave me a fire grenade. It was great.
Yes. I understand that. But Dell doesn't. Dell is learning. Don't take liberties with it.
All right, Dad, calm down. I was just investigating.
From the man's shoulder, you hear the cat Tygoa say, "All right, Dad. I was just investigating."
And Jaren just like points over at it. He's like, you can touch that as much as you want.
I did it. Ran away.
But it knew what you were doing.
Jaren, your face has gone really red.
It does that. And you see just like a twitch where his scar is on his lip. At least don't do it in a crowded space. Like as all these people are stood silently around, like
they've sort of started. Motions started picking up again. People are kind of like, it's a combination of like, oh well, that was weird, and they like head out, and then you get some people kind of like, ooh, this is a private conversation, and they just kind of like veer away.
Like, yeah, if they don't move, Jaren is giving them a look to move. He's like, look. You do you.
I do it very well.
When we need it. Not right now. Not in this group. We don't know who these people are. However, I will gleefully yell that non-safe word if we have to.
Look, I'm being very restrained, okay? You can't just turn off electricity. I'm being very good.
I know you're being restrained right now, and so am I. So, can we please just go and talk to them? Please.
Yes. You go ahead. I'll be right behind you.
Get in front of me and walk. And there is a smile to Jaren's face, not like anger, but he's genuinely slightly amused. But he won't, that smile won't curl up on his lips until Sparks walks in front of him and can't see it.
As Jaren is leaving, the guy who's just been standing here like minding his own business this whole time just looks up and he's like, "Kids, right?"
And sort of like he looks over and then touches his face briefly and is like suddenly questioning if he looks old enough to be the father of this person. He's like, yeah, right. And he looks a little bit sad and sort of follows after Sparks.
So you all you all enter into this house. Callispa and this other woman. Callispa is literally, when you get there, Callispa is just like stock still, silent, watching. And the other woman is laughing. She has tears in her eyes. And she says, "Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Yep. Oh, you're all... Mm-hmm. All right, let's go. Inside."
Well, I think it's safe to say you've met Sparks.
Yes, he's
He sparks.
How's
yes,
it
I
doing?
think that's right. Hello. And she closes the door behind you all, and you are in just a simple room made of this same kind of rainbow color material, and it is a large terraced room. And when you walk in through this door, you're expecting kind of like a simple home, but as you pass the foyer, you come into this large terraced room that leads down, kind of like a symposium. Is that the right word? Like a study hall, down to a center, and noticing all the lines of the colors, it seems almost as if they all, from everywhere, from this whole home, come to this one place, circle round, and meet up at the center, at the bottom of this room. And at that center, rises up a single pedestal with nothing on it. Looking at the vaulted ceilings above, you can see that it's pocked by windows looking in from various balcony boxes. And the other woman kind of just walks with you all sort of down the steps towards this pedestal. And she says, my name, once Jeff finds it, my name is Polyheart Entred. You can call me Entred. I am one of the leaders of the Moraviri. I am very pleased to meet all of you. And as you come down towards these steps, you see another man, or a man, another Moraviri man, coming down from steps kind of on the other side. This whole room is like a big circle, and there's another entrance that he's come down from, and he's sort of walking at the same pace. He's relatively of the same age as Entred. She seems a little bit older than all of you, but not elderly. And this man, in the same way that Entred has these sort of bright green box braids and lipstick, he has this shock pink hair, and an outrageous mustache of the same color. And he's wearing the same standard sort of Moraviri bright colors, and has that same sort of lining with all the different colors on it that Entred has. And you all meet up at the center of this room where the pedestal is. And Entred nods to him. Oot? Always a pleasure. And Oot nods. Entred. And he sort of just like grabs her arms. It is too long. Sad that we must meet only ever when necessary for things like this. And Entred nods. She turns to the party. This is Polymind Oot. He is my companion. My other half, who helps lead the Moraviri. I have heard many things about the lot of you. I have heard about the troubles in the Perch, with the ship, Sovereign's interest in it. I have heard about the Taigoa Rustaban. And this one. And she looks at Del. And she smiles. I have heard many of these things from a less than stable source. And from another entrance, you hear, You enter the home of Moraviri. You bring them here to our heart. And Vorsh comes walking down and he says, Callispa, you have gone too far. To which Callispa says, was I supposed to take them to a cafe? Was I supposed to ask the Polymind and Polyheart out of the home to have a chat? Yes, I bring them into the home. Thank you, Vorsh. And Vorsh stands kind of quietly, fuming beside the Polyheart and the Polymind. And Entrid looks at you and she says, we are all grieving. Losses today. Many. But something tells me not all of these are your fault. I'm not sure how they could be. So, I have heard from Vorsh. I know how Callispa feels. And Callispa just rolls her eyes. And Entrid looks at you. But I do not know how all of you feel, and I have not heard your account of these tales. So, tell me. And she turns and she walks around to the other side of the pedestal and rests her hands on it like a podium.
I think one of the rest of you better take this one.
Well, at least you're learning.
What is it exactly you want to know?
What brings you here?
I don't know.
Did you come here willingly? And by here I mean all of it, not the home.
That is an interesting question.
Willingly would connotate that we were asked to come, and we gave permission to come, and we expected to come. So no, not willingly.
Well, I don't willingly go everywhere, it seems.
She says, your craft shot out of the night, pierced the day, destroyed many things, some of them Moraviri. But I believe you, she smiles at Zamira, when you say you did not come here willingly. A great tragedy. Okay. You, Ghost. Tell me of the Taigoa Rustaban.
We, as has been stated, we are new to this place. I would say many of us who belong to the craft that crashed here, we had no understanding as to why the craft suddenly decided to land in this location. And Rustaban, he simply asked me a question, was whether I would have them as their master. I was intrigued, perhaps against my better judgment, and said yes. I'm always curious about such things, and far often it has led me astray, but I continue to be interested in the hope that one of these occasions will lead me to better circumstances. But, and she started just gestures to the crystals and the whole ghostly aura. I have already paid once before for my curiosity getting the best of me. I tried to be better with my judgment, but it's very much a learning process. I meant no disrespect.
She's also a very caring soul. And she saw this creature walking around looking for attention. And each time, its attention was denied to it. When it approached us, I know that in her heart she was only looking to make it feel accepted.
You get a smile from Endred, and Polymind Oot nods. Inquisitive mind. I like it. I think I'm not mad at that. And Endred nods. Inquisitive mind, strong heart, empathetic. These are not unknown to Moraviri ways, though for an outsider, dangerous to take a Taigoa, don't you think? They all look dangerous. I don't think that's anything new. Yes. And Entred looks at you all. The monolith. It was destroyed. Your ship crashed through it, pierced its surface, broke it. I've never seen such a thing. Horrible.
It was only a little bit, though. We fixed it.
She smiles. You did. But in fixing it, I fear you might have changed it as well. It glows now, but red this time. I have never seen such a thing. Callispa, at this point, steps forward. I have traveled with them through the monolith. No pain. Nothing different. Traveled as we always have. And Entred nods. This is not meant to be accusation, but more wonder. How did you fix it?
Well, do you know the term jury rigging?
I can't say that I do.
Well, I didn't really fix it so much as just bump it into working for a little bit. It's probably broken again now. I wouldn't use it, in fact.
She smiles. Vorsh is beet red at this point, just shaking. And what do you want to do with hedge magic? Oh, okay, no worries. And Entred says, "You gave it a jolt."
Yeah, that's right. I jump-started it just for a little bit.
You are very curious.
No,
She
I'm never curious. I just do things.
She looks around at all of you. Is he always like this?
I've yet to see him on a different setting. This is Sparks.
For the most part, this is how he always is. He is curious about everything. The problem is that with what he is able to do, the curiosity often leads to interesting results.
Polymind Oot says, you jump-started it, but how? What was it like? You have this power inside of you just to put into it?
Look, I've got a real issue with this. What that is questions. And that's not something I do. I just do things. I don't think about it.
Fair. I'm starting to rethink the whole danger thing. He looks
Do
at
you have inquisitive children who tend to just go and do to discover the whys of things and then deal with the aftermath?
He says, I have no children, though I raise many Moraviri. None of those children seem to be living conduits, though.
Oh no.
So you understand how it's sort of complicated more for us.
He smiles, and Endred nods. Difficult to raise a difficult child, but worth it. If you can show them empathy, teach them how to help themselves and others.
I'm taking issue again here. I am not a con. I'm an assassin, alright? Yes, I do it. I do everything, but I am not a conman.
You see, at the word assassin, you see Vorsh's hackles just rise,
Yes, Vorsh, you can hire me if you like. There's only one person I've not got a contract on yet, and that's Jaren. But we've not returned to Earth yet, so I'll probably get him when we go back.
Jaren just salutes and keeps watching Borsch.
At this point, as you all look around you, you notice that the terraces have filled. And there are Moraviri standing, some sitting, some sort of holding energetic children. Up in the hawked windows above this place, you see more faces looking out. All kinds of people, different aesthetics, skin colors, looks. All of them still dressed in this same specific, bright coloring, sort of chaotic. Some of the children sit swinging their legs at the edge of the terraces, just sort of watching. You see the occasional group of bored teenagers. And you seem to be surrounded now by this community. Not so much in a threatening way. You don't see any weapons. Just people watching and listening. And Polyheart Entrid says, okay. Your sparks fixed our monolith. That is good. Beatrice. You do not know Moraviri ways. You are not Moraviri. You took a Moraviri relic, but you did not steal. If Rustaban goes with you, that is Rustaban's choice.
If the concern is that I would be disrespectful to anyone, and I'm probably looking at Vorsh while I'm saying this as well. If the concern is disrespect to the dead, you need not worry about this. And she just sort of gestures to the crystals that are all across her body. I have already paid for disrespecting the dead before. I would hope not to do it again unless necessary, and I can think of no circumstance where that would be the case. Particularly for, and she seems like she has a look of a mixture of genuine kind of sad longing while looking at Rustaban, but also probably Dell of all folks in the group knows there's a level of slight curiosity, when she gets thinking about a project in her head while looking at it. It's I would seek to do no harm to anyone.
And Rustaban is sitting there, the orb kind of panning back and forth as different people talk. No face present. And the polymind smiles and he says, it is, I don't think any of us are worried that you will disrespect our dead. I think one of us is worried that you took something he wanted. He leans forward and he looks at Vorsh. Even though, even by our own standards, it is not his. And Vorsh kind of pales and just sort of steps back a little bit. And the Polyheart says, we will teach you about Taigoa. You will know about them, and you will treat them well. And that is fine. As for our last issue, and she looks at Dell. What is your name?
My identification number is D377. However, this group calls me Dell.
The Polyheart looks at Polymindude. Identification number? Oh. And Shred looks back at you. These ones, I've heard, none of them are your master?
I serve them as a group. Whatever this group wishes, I will fulfill.
And you came with them from their world? From your world?
I did. That is correct. I was initially hired by, and I looked to Sparks, to assassinate Jaren Watts. However, upon failing this... just everyone waving as they're addressed. However, after failing this mission, it became my duty to serve. Instead.
Postponing the mission.
Jaren glances back over at Sparks.
Well, I'm not killing you when there's no one to pay me, is there? But when we get back, you're as good as dead, mate.
Rolls his eyes.
Oot says, well, if we were worried about danger, they don't seem to be very good assassins. And Entra just nods. All right. You are not from the Perch, which means you are not born in the Fireheart. And she looks at Callispa. I expected better from you. And Callispa nods and just kind of lowers her head. And then Entrid looks at Vorsh. Where do Taigoa come from, Vorsh? And Vorsh, like, instead of the kind of red anger, he gets like a blush in his cheeks. Did Taigoa come from the Fireheart? Oh, that's interesting. You don't say. And then she looks at Del. Where did you come from?
I was initially made in a place called Ralk on the Ninth World. I fought in the front lines of Vastorn.
You can see Polymind Oot, like, genuinely curious, very similar to, like, the look Beatrice gets, like, he kind of leans forward. But Entrid just kind of, and she leans forward again and she looks at Vorsh. What were all of those places? What did they, what was it? Did I hear? I don't know if I heard Fireheart in there. And Vorsh just like, you can hear like a little bit of laughter throughout the community. And Entred looks at you and she says, we lost good hunters today. We lost... And she, in much less of like a pointed kind of comedic gesture, just looks over at Vorsh. Close friends. People we loved. It can make the brain succumb to the heart. I am sorry for what my friends here may have said to you. I am glad that they brought you here and did not harm you. And Oot. And Oot's still like thinking. Hmm? What? And he sort of twirls his mustache. You will do better about teaching people what is and what is not Taigoa. Oh, yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Honestly, just some straight answers and less riddles would be great in general.
She laughs. Small one, the riddles you hear are the riddles that we give strangers. Now, she sort of gestures to the room. Are there complaints? Questions? And in the silence, you hear a single drop. And people sort of part and they turn and they look at a place on the wall where a single bead of color drips down.
What color?
Red.
Oh.
And it begins to build up and then faster as it pours into a shape. And standing there, lit as the walls are lit, that same power that runs through this place running through her, is the Red Lady.
Oh no!
This is the first time that any of you have seen her other than Sparks. Though you know when Sparks refers to the ship, he calls her the Red Lady. And she looks around, and then she seems to sort of blink a bit, and then looks at all of you, and she says, "There you are. Oh, okay. I am..." And you immediately recognize her voice, and she hikes up her dress, and she kind of runs down the stairs. Whew! This place is wild. I have been trying to figure out how it's powered for ages. Whew. Hi, Sparks.
Sparks is hiding behind Del.
And Jaren just looks at him over to the side.
This is not a character, but I want to do it anyway. Del just kind of lifts his skirt up so now you can see Sparks through the stomach. Kind of looks down.
A lot of people in the audience just sort of look away.
There's nothing there.
And the Red Lady looks at all of you and she says, I have limited time. I don't know how long I can maintain this form. Hi, Jaren.
He just looks fairly wild-eyed.
It's me.
Yeah, no, I got that.
And she turns and looks at kind of just the rest of you in general, and she says, they, the one that brought us here, Sovereign, and as soon as she says that name, a hush goes through the entire crowd. People stop moving, and they all turn their attention to the Red Lady. Even the Polymind and Polyheart stop, and they look at the Red Lady. Big fans. All right. The one who, got me up, pulled me down here. They seem to be collecting me. And I'm not really sure what for, but I don't like it. And I don't know what to do.
Oh, you mean you don't like being collected without your permission?
Oof. All right. Yep, I deserved that. You're not wrong.
I know I'm not wrong.
Oof. And she just, like, awkwardly turns. I said I'd bring you back home.
This is not my home.
I know, but it was... I wanted to go on an adventure. I just wanted to go and see some things and show you all of these cool things. Look at this place.
That's when
Right?
you become a travel agent. You give someone a packet and say, hey, look, this is a journey I have in store. Want to come along? Not, oh, by the way, here's this odd creature in a pillar in your room, and suddenly you're on a ship.
Even Jared is just like, oh, damn. And so like just steps out of the way, like steps behind Zamira, just like, listen to the lady.
And the red lady sort of goes to respond a couple times and then stops herself and she says, "You're right. I got very excited. Time doesn't really work for me the same way. I figured we would zip around, see a bit of things, come back. You could have dinner or whatever. I thought it was going to be okay. Then we wound up here and everything's very bad. And I'm sorry."
She just narrows her eyes. You're going to have to do more than just apologize for your oopsie-daisies.
I'm trying.
Try harder.
Okay, but that's why I need your help. I can't because I am sort of just... I don't have a lot. Things work different for me. I don't have a ton of oomph right now. I sort of don't have a set shape either, which is difficult. If we can get the ship
Right.
back together...
I think I can
Maybe.
help us all out. I think I've got a solution that will satisfy everyone. You want to know how the ship works? This is the Red Lady. She makes the ship work. You want to fix the ship? These are the people that control all the infrastructure. Good luck. I'm going for a pint.
She looks at Polymind Oot and Polyheart Entred. Do you know how to get some things back from the Sovereign? And they are all just like staring at this woman like, I do not know what you are, or how you got in here, or why you came out of the wall. Is she with you?
Jaren is like, just nods.
She's the reason why we're here.
She brought
I
us
don't-
here.
And his eyes kind of narrow. And Entred's eyes kind of narrow. And the red lady's eyes kind of narrow. What? Why are you looking at me like that? Ooh, this is not comfy. Okay, well, here's the thing. When I hit the monolith, some of me might have shot through and gone somewhere else. I'm not sure where. I'm in a bit of a tiz. That's a cat. So, but the thing, I can't, I don't have any way to sort of pull myself back together. So if you could help me with that, that would be really cool.
And what do we get for helping you?
She's just sort of looking around the room. A lot of people in here. I can take you back home.
Along with that, you intended to bring us back home.
That was my plan.
Yes, but now you're asking more of us.
I can't bring you back home if I'm blown into a million bits. People know about bits, right? That's not just a me thing. You all can't work in bits.
Yes, but once we put you back together, what can you do for us, is the question.
I can... I mean, I don't think you're getting back home without me. I didn't want to put it that way. I don't like working on that whole wavelength. But I'm probably the only way you're going to get back home. So maybe if you did want to put me back together and we could do that.
You assume I want to help you.
I assume you
These
want to
people
go
have
back
been-
home.
Well, so far they've been quite accommodating and willing to listen. Take our situation into concern. They bothered to talk to us about how we feel and what we tried to do.
Is there someone else I can talk to about this who isn't extremely mad at me?
Jaren is stood behind Zamira just head.
Beatrice will pipe up and say, I am not always very good at talking about certain things, but I keep a lot of notes, and as far as I can tell, I don't think you are actually in a position to bargain with us. As far as Zamira has put it, and you just see her gesture to a whole notebook that's just full of everything Zamira has said so far. She's been writing it down. I don't think any of this indicates, as far as I can tell, that you are in a good position to argue with us.
Okay, that's
I would
fair.
I would assume you should probably offer something else in addition to just getting us back home, because you were supposed to do that anyways. You don't really get to... It's not a plus for us for you to do what you were supposed to have done anyways. That was your job. And she sort of just turns to Del. This is what one does when they're given a task, correct? They're supposed to do it if they follow through with it, right? That's what following a task is, correct?
Okay, but I just want to, real quick, say Del was going to go protect everybody. Del was running to save a village. Classic Del. And someone came along and cut Del in half and then tore him up into pieces and then scattered those pieces to the wind.
Del just looks down at themselves.
Would Del then be able to still help you and still do what he was planning on doing anyway if he's a million pieces?
No, but we were willing to actually put him back together because we considered him a friend.
Oh, that's what it's about.
Del looks at Zamira like just unscrutable, but stares at Zamira for a long while before looking
We're
back at
not
the red lady.
I should also note, talking about the graphic destruction of one of our friends, probably not the best way to win our favor.
Well, I'm sorry, Beatrice, but I was just graphically destroyed.
I think Del
And
looks
you're
at
not
Beatrice
making
like...
your case better.
Del looks at Beatrice like, it has happened before and I came out okay.
We've all had our own trials and have had to rebuild ourselves.
Okay, well, this has been a great chat that has taken up some of the last life force that I have.
Poor thing.
Next
Yes,
time, bring
okay.
flashcards for your speech.
I know, apparently, and maybe like a $5 or something. You guys are great. Okay, well, I'm gonna go, and I'm just gonna sort of try to pull all of my pieces together by myself. Have fun on this weird planet. And she just back into a red line, and then it spreads throughout into the swirl and disappears.
Jared just let the rest of the group talk to her. He didn't want to talk to her, so he just like, well, they got it, it's fine.
Dell just looks to Zamira and is like, am I going to be destroyed?
Absolutely not.
I was gonna say, even Jaren's just like, no.
She was trying to make a comparison, and a poor one at that.
The room around you is just silent. And then Entred says, well, that was interesting.
You asked if we came here willingly.
Okay.
She is the reason we are here, unwillingly.
That makes sense. Well, I had promised to show you the Taigoa. Perhaps Kalispa can find you quarters. You look like you could use rest.
Yeah, rest! Rest, that sounds great. Where's the closest nightclub?
Nightclub?
Dance hall. Discotheque.
I do not know a discotheque, but I know a dance hall.
What kind of dance?
I am going to let someone else sort of take care of that. I have more in mind maybe somewhere for you to sleep.
Oh.
Does this one sleep?
To be honest, I'm not really sure.
We don't know.
He just sort of stops, and then we appreciate the occasional peace of mind it grants us.
So you watch as more of these Moraviri sort of disperse, returning to their lives. Amongst them you see the occasional Taigoa. Roostabon is still sitting quietly next to Beatrice. Dell, a small but not necessarily young woman, walks up to you, kind of sheepishly. She's dressed in the same Moraviri clothes, her hood pulled up, and she says, I think that you were not treated right. I am sorry that you may have had a bad time, and I wanted you to know that that is not necessarily the Moraviri way. And she just sort of offers you a little flower.
I think for the briefest of seconds, you see just in the blue lights of Dell's like visor, you just see like this tiny little flicker of green go across it, and Dell accepts this flower and gives a bow of the head, and like, I am glad. Thank you.
And she nods, and she sort of just kind of sheepishly runs away to join the crowd. You are led by Polyheart entered sort of to an antechamber. There are beds, small tables. There's a extra room that seems to be kind of like a dining hall, though save for one large table and chairs. There's no food or cabinetry. It all has this same kind of Moraviri coloring. And excuse me. And the Polyheart says, "This is one of our common spaces. You are all welcome to stay here. I will look into what dance halls we have to offer you. In the meantime, feel free to..."
Perhaps we can cut some time out. I mean, what do people do between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. for entertainment?
She just kind of looks around.
Oh god, do you have time here? Ah!
We usually sleep, small one. But you are welcome to explore if you want. Try not to hurt anyone. She looks at Polymind Oot, and he's like, "I don't think so. It might be a bad idea." And she's just like, I don't know. I'm not sure. But you have the freedom of the Moraviri. Sovereign's eyes are on you. We know this. So you are welcome to leave the home at any time. You are not our prisoners. But I will warn you that Davia's Perch is dangerous for you. Very dangerous for you. So I will simply suggest caution. Thank you for agreeing to come here to talk.
Thank you for giving us the option to talk.
She smiles. You are very strong. And she just kind of gives like a little salute to Zamira.
Zamira's completely confused. She's like, what?
I will see if I can find out more about your ship and the lady that lives in it.
She's called the Red Lady. And any information you'll have would definitely be appreciated.
And she nods. And she and the Polymind leave. And you have this room to yourselves for a moment.
Right, well, from what I heard, I've got permission to explore freely, so I'm gonna go and take a little walk.
Del just kind of looks at Sparks and looks at Jara and is just like, "Are you gonna make me stop him?" Like...
Jaren sort of lets Sparks go and just sort of goes to the far edge of wherever the room is and just sits down. Not
You can see
really, like, more lost in thought, like, running his fingers through his hair, thinking, oh, just letting Sparks go.
You can see Del still holding onto this flower and looking around the room. Is there like a vase or anything? I'm gonna say Jeff is leaving. I'm gonna say yes, there is a vase. So Del just puts this flower in this vase like on this table that I assume is in the room. I'm building this room now. There is a fainting lounge and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think Jaren's sat on the edge of a bed somewhere, just sat.
And Del just looks to Zamira, looks to Beatrice, and it's like, are you alright now? I understand your emotions were very strong earlier.
Let's just say the past can come up and haunt you sometimes.
It never really leaves me. I always have to walk around with it everywhere I go. So it just becomes more intense at some moments.
Hearing that, Samara is going to start sort of touching the scar that's on her wrist behind her bangles and nods her head.
Beatrice is similar with her crystals. There's just like a very like it's just very like little stimming behaviors where she's just like she starts poking at a couple of them and then just stops when she realizes it, and then this is probably the first time she's actually looking at all of her notes that she's written over the past however long this is all taken, and she's very confused by all the sections where it became frenetic, because it usually doesn't happen. Like she just has a look of utter confusion on her face.
Yeah, there's a long pause as Del thinks for a bit, and then there's just they just kind of lean down a little bit, which I don't usually do. Usually just kind of stare down at you. They lean down a little bit. They're like, I am unfamiliar with. Oh no, V, something's happening. I am unfamiliar with many of your emotions. However, I was broken on the battlefield, and since then I have had to figure them out. However, there is something that helps me quieten them if you wish for me to help you. And there's a pause, and they pull out of their bag this little, it's a kalimba, like a little thumb piano. And they just start playing this little tune for you. And then they play like this, like just a couple of like this little, like very serene melody before turning it around and handing it over to whoever's closest. And they're like, I find this helps quieten things down. You may hold on to it if you wish.
If Jaren can hear the music from his, he sort of smiles briefly and just sort of sits up and looks over, just listening again.
Beatrice will just sort of, if she's the one who's been handed the little item.
Yeah, whoever's closest, so I'll say Beatrice.
Yeah. And she'll just look at it for a little bit, and there'll be just sort of like, it's tears, but it's almost like just little bits of the vapor. Then you see sort of the red aura that happened before when she was at the fire, but it's instead of like a blood red sort of coloring and pinkishness that was there before, it's now like a little bit brighter, like just almost like a really sweet kind of red. And she says, more to herself than anyone else, because she walks over to Jaren and she's going to say something to him, but before, as she's walking over, probably Del hears her say something like, it's nice to think of you again, Ayana. And then she just goes over to Jaren and just, if he's okay with her setting her head against his shoulder, to say thank you for helping keep us safe. And she didn't say anything else, just tears.
I think seeing the tears and not really understanding, Del kind of straightens up a bit and just kind of looks to Zamira and is like, I am unsure if I helped.
I think you helped. No, I think you helped more than you realized. You don't need to apologize.
Yeah, and I think you see them almost fidget a little bit, just kind of fidget like the more humanoid hands before straightening up to their usual height, and just kind of watching and waiting again for an order.
Zamira would walk over and she'd take one of their hands. Don't let what she said make you think is what's going to happen. You are a part of this group. You are not a thing to be toyed with, or broken apart, or scattered. We wouldn't let that happen. As much as you want to help us, we want to help you.
I have not had people want to help me in return. You consider me a friend?
I do.
Thank you. I am not sure I understand what that entails, but just kind of looks to the group like, I am learning.
That's usually how a friendship works.
Just another nod, and they just straighten up again, but they still have your hand, Zamira.
She'll like give a little extra squeeze, and then she'll kind of softly let go and go over to one of the beds and just sort of sit down and sort of pull into herself a little bit.
I think Dell's just there, at alert, waiting for an order, but I think they'll look to Jaren for a second. It's like, would you like me to go? Has Sparks left? Like,
Sparks gone.
Yep.
Sparks gone, yeah. Yeah. Would you like me to keep an eye on Sparks?
And he sort of looks up, almost as if you've snapped him up, like, out of something. He's like, no, and sort of stands up, brushes himself down. He's like, I need something to preoccupy my mind anyway. And sometimes it's fun to watch. And he sort of starts to head out of the room after Sparks.
Dell just gives a nod and stays in the room.
Yeah, I would say sort of pauses and it's just like, just keep an eye on everyone in here.
Understood.
And awkwardly, again, very much like with Zamira, puts her hand on Dell's arm, and you can see this is a really weird thing for him, and he's just like, friend. Then very quickly sort of walks out the door and closes it quickly. And you can probably, if he doesn't see Sparks, you could probably hear Jaren break into a run.
Sparks, you head out into the Moraviri home, and it's very much of the same. You travel through these bright, colorful tunnels, pass through these different bazaars. You see the occasional different type of Taigoa. You see a sort of biomechanical robotic monkey with a big orb for a head, sort of just swinging around. The occasional bird.
Sparks is going to be looking for like a marketplace or something like that.
Yeah, so you...
Like trade, commerce, that sort of thing.
Yeah. You pass through different areas and you come into a larger sort of pod, different from the one that you originally passed through with the man and the cat. But kind of that same vibe. There are different like stalls, different tiny kitchens, people preparing food. And as you watch and investigate, you don't actually see any kind of currency being exchanged or barter. You just see people finishing cooking, and they hand it to someone who asks for it. There are people weaving these, the cloth for these elaborate outfits. You see, every now and then you'll see a group of Moraviri with that same scoop shield that the hunters have and the clubs, and they come in with just kind of hovering sort of carts that has some fresh kill on it, and they take it into some room near one of the kitchens. Children, lots of children, just always running around, playing, laughing. You hear music being played from some sort of string instrument somewhere. And as it starts to play, the sound of the rest of the market dampens, and the strings rise above it just a little bit so that you can hear it better. And again, that same sort of everyone just knowing where they're going and what they're doing. And though you clearly stick out, people stop, they offer you food from their stall. They smile, nod.
This isn't right at all. How do you make people do the horrible jobs?
I'll just ask a random baker.
Shouting this into the void. Okay.
Baker who offers me food.
Okay, cool. I mean, like, imagine he's just offering you, like, just a simple, like, nice pastry.
No, put that down.
Horrible job.
Oh, how do you make people do things?
How do I make people do what?
No, not you, but everyone. I mean, like, who works the... I don't know, do you have a sewer system here? Who does the horrible jobs? And why?
And he kind of, like, looks around for, like, anyone else. And he's like, whoever's doing it that day does it, usually. Most days I like to cook, so that's what I do.
Yeah, alright, but like, back-breaking labour. No one likes to do that.
You've broken your back doing labor.
Well, not yet. But might.
This small child is in labor.
Hey, I'm not a small child. Right, well, how do you have people who are in charge? Who's in charge?
The Polymind and the Polyheart.
Alright, who else? What power factions are at play?
Power factions?
Yeah! Who can I go to try and get an assassin's contract on someone else?
Assassin's contract? So we have, scones. If you like scones. And he just sort of, like, pulls, like, a small plate and just slowly starts offering it towards you.
Ah!
Oh, no.
Sparks, he didn't mean to knock the plate, but he's just gonna walk away like,
Oh, useless!
You see, like, a couple people, like, stop and pick up various scones and just help this man, like, put everything on the plate back again. He puts it back and he's like, I don't know. At this point, Jaren, you would have probably been able to just stop and ask anyone, like, do you see...
I think I can hear him.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you can, like, hear him over things, and you are able to sight Sparks sort of making his way through this marketplace.
He's not going to go up to him. He's more just keeping an eye. He doesn't care what he's doing. If anything, like, Jaren arrives fairly wheezy. He's not a runner. He's sort of like, okay. Like, as soon as he sort of arrives and sees Sparks. And he won't approach Sparks, but he'll watch him. And there'll be almost a smile as he does. A happy smile, not an angry one.
Mm-hmm.
and he just watches the chaos until it becomes too much.
You see, as you are, oh my god, as as you are watching Sparks sort of navigate this space, keeping an eye on him, but not too concerned. You see two people sort of sitting at the steps of this more or less stage. It's a raised area where this musician sits playing this stringed instrument. It's kind of a lively song, but not overly so. It's jubilant. It's joyous and happy, and you see two friends sitting on the steps, just sort of talking. You can't really hear them from where you are, but you can see them, and they're just telling each other a joke, and one of them laughs. And you watch them for a moment as they jest amongst themselves and sort of rib each other. And then one of them takes the other's hand and gives it a squeeze, and they both sort of hold hands, and they just like rest there. One rests his head on the other's shoulder, and they both sit there quietly watching the musician.
And I think Jaren stops and pauses, listening to the music. And then after he realizes he's watched this for a while, he's sort of, he clears his throat, sort of straightens up, doesn't give mind to where Sparks is, very, very quickly just leaves the area. He doesn't want to be near that.
Jaren, how would you like a GM intrusion?
I like chaos, so yeah, why not?
So you have 1 XP, and you have 1 XP to give to anyone else for any reason.
I stress again, I like chaos, so I'm going to give it to Sparks.
Awesome. Sparks, you have 1 more XP. Jaren, you find yourself in one of these tunnels between the different pods, sort of just walking, trying to still your thoughts, when from behind you something strikes specifically your weak shoulder from behind, hard. You take 5 points of damage. And so in Numenera, just so everyone's clear, anytime I just say damage, that's subtracted from your might pool. If I say like, oh, you take intellect damage, you're subtracted from your intellect pool.
He sort of like cries out, like grabbing his shoulder immediately and turning round.
Standing there, shield up, club in hand, you see Vorsh. And he says, "You do not belong here. You have made the fool of me today."
And Jaren sort of looks at him, looks down at his shoulder, lets go, rounds it a bit, and smiles at Vorsh. And is like, I'm glad we're finally alone.
So we cut back to the room where everyone is waiting, listening to music. And Callispa enters, followed by Polymind Oot. And they say, "Is everything all right here? It's nice enough. Do you like it?"
Your hospitality is appreciated.
I wanted to take, well, any of you are welcome to come, but I wanted to take the ghost and Dell to see the Fireheart. To tell you about Taigoa. If you want to come.
Zamir will look to the two of them and completely defer to what they want to do.
That's Dell's state of being, so Dell looks to Beatrice.
Del, would you like to come to see the Fireheart?
I will do, and they start to do their general spiel. Of like, I'll do what you asked me to do, and then just pause. And then they just say, I would like that very much.
Then yes, I would like to go to the Fireheart as well. If that is alright with you, Zamira, it might do good to see what's happening with Jaren and Sparks soon. I don't think any of us should be off on our own for too long.
I'll go see if I can track them down. You two go find out what you can.
And Callispa and Polymind Oot lead the two of you away as Zamira heads through the marketplaces, trying to find the other two. Sparks, in your wandering, you wander around, you're trying to get answers from people. Your questions seem strange to the people you talk to. They don't fully understand many of the concepts you're trying to ask them about. And you come to what seems to be a large hangar bay with a massive door looking out across the it's the mirror planes, the same sort of metallic with red. You can see the lavender sky. It's still daytime. There's still no worries. You see the occasional silver and gold cloud floating around. And in this hangar bay, there are Moraviri just running and jumping out of it. And you notice as they run, the robes that they're wearing are very long, trailing behind them. And they run, jump, and it looks like, have you ever seen one of those like sock balls, just basically like a ball in a sock, and it has the it kind of looks like that as they run and jump, and then they hold out their arms and the whole robe and then goes rigid, and they just catch the air and glide down to the plains. You see one woman, she has goggles over her head, just standing there watching people go, and she sees you, and she sees your goggles, and she says, "Have you done this before?"
Yep.
"Do you have a glide?"
Nope.
"We can find you one."
That'd be great.
And she sort of gestures. "Do we have a glide in this one size?" And some people look around for a bit. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, I can find one." And one person comes out and and carrying a robe, and it's this bright, colorful thing. And he sort of just offers it to you, Sparks. He says, I think this one should suit you fine."
Thanks.
And the woman pulls her goggles down. She says, "We're going down to scavenge some of that ship that came out of the night. Would you like to come with us?"
I've got nothing else better to do.
"Excellent. I'll see you down there." And she pulls down her goggles and she just runs and jumps.
Think. I've got a glide. I could glide down to the ship and scavenge the ship. But I already know what's on that ship and it hasn't got a power source, so they're basically doing an exercise in futility. But I do have a glide!
What's the tallest thing in the city?
You've seen various buildings. There are certainly like different spires within the city. You haven't spent too much time in it to really know exactly what's the highest, but you know there is something tall. You, in fact, just looking out and seeing the shadow on the, like, out across the perch, you know that you are actually under the city. You're in the pillar of it, so you can certainly get much taller than this.
Well, that's where I go.
So Sparks sets off on his own to go find something taller.
Put on the glide though, so the thing's trailing behind him as he walks.
It's shh. And we cut back to the tunnel with Vorsh and Jaren. And Vorsh has his shield up and his club. He says, I'm glad we get to do this now.
And he sort of holds his hands up. Do your people attack unarmed people?
He smiles. I do. And he
Good to know. And he just sort of starts rolling his sleeves up and
as you're
walks around, not around him, but he's trying to look at everything he's got.
so you are in literally a colorful tube. It's just flat. These tunnels are very simple. He's essentially caught you in a space where you are going to have to face off with him. And I need you to roll me a... Where is it?
Is it the initiative one up at the... let's have a look.
Roll me... Well, yeah, you can roll me a speed... I wrote down his level 4 speed task.
A level 4 speed task. He is crap at speed. This is gonna be funny. Yep.
So he gets to go first. He strikes his shield, and it glows blue. And in a flash, he charges straight at you. And it is a level 5 speed task to defend against it. Now, in Numenera, you get to kind of decide like what that means, essentially, like how you want to do this. You have a man-shaped blue speeding bullet coming straight at you.
First of all, can I use Flesh of Stone?
How does that work?
As he comes towards me, I'm gonna... I have
Absolutely.
1 plus to my armor I'm already wearing.
So it's a so that ability is an enabler, so you just always have that active.
I always have it active anyway.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Let's have a look. So what is he just running?
Yeah, he's moving at a very fast speed. It's that same charge that they use to get through the monoliths. And it's just this blue flash coming right at you.
If he's just running right at me, I think Jaren will brace himself, and as he's running towards him, I want to grab him.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of like literally latch hold of him as he runs at me. I'm not going to
Cool.
move.
So that'll be that same level 5 speed defense task.
Speed. I'm going to spend effort, I think, on this. Oh, it disappeared. Oh no, hang on, there we go. Is it just 1 effort we have at the moment? I can't remember.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Yeah, he's bad at speed, so yeah.
You take this just brunt of it. It's lightning fast. It is just a blur. Boom. You're almost able, you think, to get a hand on him, and then his whole body slams into you, knocking you prone. You take 6 damage.
So with my 2 armor, do I make that 4 damage?
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Making that 4 damage. So do I actually subtract that from the original 5 he hit me with?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
So that would have been 3.
Yeah.
Looks like we got a new friend.
And you are knocked flat on your back. And he says, "No outsider can stand against one of the Moraviri hunters." And we zoom back through the colors of the Moraviri home, through the white of Davia's perch and up into the sky. And we're looking at stars. And then we're looking at another planet, the 9th world. And we see a young Jaren Watts standing before a wall. And on that wall, there are written thousands of names. What name is Jaren looking for?
He's hoping he doesn't see any name he's thinking of. But his eyes trail down and he sees it. He sees the name Hunter and he rereads it 5, 6, 7 times, double checking, triple checking, and his eyes just grow wide. Just no. No. And for a moment he starts to shake quite violently. And he's much younger here, and he looks a lot smarter than he does now. I followed him. I'm not too late. I'm never too late. I was too late. And sort of a shaking hand reaches out and traces the name. And his eyes, he sort of almost can't see it as his eyes fog up. I left it too late. And his voice breaks. He doesn't sort of see anyone around him. He doesn't hear anyone around him. It's like everything sounds like it's underwater. I always got there on time. And he backs away from this wall. And he sort of bends down, almost as if he's talking to himself. This is your fault. And it's more internal words than if anyone's around and they don't hear grunts or anything, they just hear weeping. My fault. Too late. And where he stands in this group of people, he sort of squats down. And he just cries. And he sobs. He's about 21 years old. As he reaches out and he touches this cold sort of stone panel in front of him. And he just sobs. And he stays there until someone physically removes him. And when they do, they hear him humming a song. Not one anyone knows, and he's almost delirious, in fact. And if they pick him up, they just hear him under his breath. I should have said something. Where's the sign-up sheet?
And as recruiters are picking Jaren up away from this memorial wall, they put hands on him, and we snap back. And Vorsh has a hand on Jaren, pulling him up, ready to strike him with this club. And an older, stronger, angrier Jaren Watts rises with a single uppercut, striking Vorsh on the chin, lifting his body off the floor and back onto his ass.
I think.
And that's
Oh, I was gonna say. Sorry.
and that's where we'll leave Nightborne for today. Hi!
I am so glad someone finally got to knock that sucker.
Ah, I'm so upset. None of us are there to see it.
I don't care. He got knocked out.
I hope we just see just this bruise on his face and
Right?
a giant shit-eating grin.
I hope he wets his pants with that Strack.
There's a lot more Jaren would have done after that.
Oh, we'll get to it.
Yeah. Oh
something
my
to begin.
god. That was a spicy episode.
It was fruity,
Awesome.
not just spicy. It was great. Well, everyone, here we are at the end of today's episode of Nightborne. Please take a moment to check out our links as the bot spams them at you. The latest new thing is the posters on the Streamlabs. They're available for 1 week and 1 week only, the Season 2 posters. So if you want to go and go and take a look at them, you can do now. And other things there as well. Big thank you to Magehand Press and Bird in the Storm Publishing, who make this all possible. But for now, we'll be back in a couple of hours where Alice runs Twilight Sands, a Call of Cthulhu campaign. But until then, keep on evoking emotions, and we will see you all later on. Bye.
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 See you later.
Looks like we got a new friend!